Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.
Welcome to Getting to Know You. My name is Joe Nash. Today we're going to be talking about the Albany Institute's summer, ongoing, and current exhibits. We have with us Tammis Groft. She is the Executive Director and Chief Curator of the Institute, and we have Clowe, who is the Education Director. So welcome. Welcome back, Tammis.
Nice to see you again.
So before we start talking about some current and upcoming exhibits, the Albany Mummies, always a big topic down there. The exhibit's been there since September. It's finishing up its 8th or 9th month. There's still time to see it. It ends June 8th. So how did the big exhibit go? I know you had some lectures, you had speakers from all over the world, and Anya is here off camera, has already told me that you've had 23,000 visitors. So how did it go, this Mummies?
Well, it's been great. It exceeded all of our expectations. We're very excited. We hope to break over 25,000 by the time the exhibition ends on June 8th. And we've had a lot of new people to the museum. Our members have been coming. Their school groups have been very, very popular. In fact, every slot available for school groups to come to the Albany Institute with their teachers to see it was filled up, I think, by January of this year. So it's really been a high demand. And you mentioned the lecture series. We sort of described it as the rock stars of the Egyptology world, and in part because we had a lot of people who were currently doing research, doing new research, and they were really coming and sharing their new scholarship. So that was very exciting to see how all of that will play out.
Were the lectures well attended also?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So
that's...
And, think about, we had Salima Ikrim, who is the #1 specialist in animal mummies here, and other people from Germany and Switzerland and England. So it was pretty exciting.
Now, did you have a lot of people who were, I didn't know we had all this stuff down here. Did you have some new people that may have forgotten about the Institute? And
it's a cross between I remember the mummies, my first introduction to Egyptian culture, to people being very impressed about, not only the Mystery of the Albany Mummy exhibition, but just coming to the museum for the first time.
Now, and Sarah, were you, I know you're the educator, you work with the kids. How were you involved with the mummies? Were you involved with any of the programming? Or?
I've seen some of the school groups through. I've helped do some of the art lessons for the Egypt school group visits. We also have a lot of great docents who come in and lead those lessons as well. I've been involved at the same time as a lot of the Egypt programming with one of our school partnership programs called a Book Arts program. So I've been doing a little bit more of that than the Egypt, but we have a good group of wonderful docents who have a good background and training to lead those programs as well.
Now, Tammis, what happens after June 8th with the mummies? I know you were telling me, obviously, part of it's been here since 1909, right?
Well, yes, the Albany Institute's mummies have been here since 1909.
So what you were telling me before, that you may have some plans for
Right. Well, we've always, the Albany Institute's mummies are the only collections at the Albany Institute that have been on continuous view since they arrived in 1909. So we're not going to break that cycle. We will be reinstalling our mummies and coffins upstairs in our ancient Egyptian gallery. And that will be joined by about 70 other objects that are in the museum's collection, in addition to loans that we've had for a number of years from the Metropolitan Museum and from the Boston Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, Semitic Museum, et cetera. We also, during the run of the show, had a large donation from Dr. Heinrich Medicus, which will be on view up in our gallery. But because of the interest in the show and all of the new scholarship and research we were able to do on our mummies, we've decided to expand our ancient Egyptian gallery. So instead of being one gallery, we're going to also incorporate an adjacent gallery. And I'm right in the process of trying to keep a number of loans that we had for our Mystery of the Albany Mummies. So my goal, and we don't know yet, but I am hoping that Anken Fenmoot's coffin lid will remain in Albany with his mummy and coffin bottom for a little while longer.
So the permanent exhibit, which has been here since 1909, may be expanded.
It will, right. So people who are familiar with it will remember the galleries, although they'll look different, and then we're going to expand it as well.
Now, before we get to we have some summer programs for kids we're going to talk about in a minute or two, but we have a new exhibit. It just started. We're filming this today on May 6th. It opened on May 3rd. It runs through September 28th, and it's called Small and Seductive: Contemporary Art from the Albany Institute's Collection. Now, this is stuff you've garnished from your from the basement or somewhere. But when you say
it's from our wonderful climate-controlled storage, which, by the way, it isn't. Some of it, this is not in the basement, but it could be.
But now it says small and seductive art. Now, how could you describe this exhibit? How small?
Well, it's installed in our large gallery on the top floor, the Lansing Gallery.
Okay.
And previous to this, we had an exhibition called Big and Bold, which they were very large-scale works, and they were very bold. So we thought, that was fun and interesting, but we also have small works. And just because something is small doesn't mean it doesn't have a big impact. So we decided to do small and seductive. And the word seductive really means that it draws you in. You have to look very closely at this artwork. So when you, so it's a very different, sort of really the opposite of big and bold. So we had lots of things to choose from.
So I see it's both paintings and sculptures?
Paintings and sculpture, prints, works on paper. So it's a nice broad range of things. And, there's one that we've included, which is a handmade book by Bill Shade. And it's a wonderful bird, beautiful bird. And it's really quite, small. It's maybe 4 by 6 inches in terms of the imagery. The book itself is probably about 24 inches long. And it has a wonderful story where this bird arrives in Rome every year, and it's just when these particular insects are coming out. So it's sort of the invasion of the birds. It's very fanciful.
And then you said, how, you were saying it comes from your collection. How many items do you have that sort of aren't on, that people don't see? Do you have thousands and thousands?
Oh, yes. We have about 35,000 objects in our museum collection, over 1 million documents in the library. So like most museums, about 10% of your collections might be on view at any given time. So Small and Seductive, we included 50 works. 50 works, and a lot of them are purchase prizes from the Mohawk-Hudson Regional, which we can talk about a little bit later because the Albany Institute will be hosting it this fall. And then other pieces are works of art that we purchased from artists, from using a contemporary art fund. Some are donations from area patrons. But it's a really interesting mix with the idea is that they needed to be small.
Now, how many did you, out of the 50, how many did you choose from? Do you know? Or was it
sure. I'm sure we had, out of 50, there were probably maybe 200 of small, and this is contemporary works.
Okay.
So, it's a really interesting range of things.
Okay. All right, well, that goes through September 28th this year, and it's already open. It opened May 3rd. So, Sarah, now you're the, I get my papers here. What is your job? It says you're museum educator. What is that?
Museum educator, yeah. I run most of the family programs and the school vacation programs for kids, and I've been involved in some of the school programming. Like we have a large-scale partnership with schools in Troy, mostly sixth grade with a program called Book Arts, and they've been able to come and visit the institute, and we've done lessons and art projects with them on in-house, but also we've had professionals visit the classroom, and it all comes together in one cumulative project. So I'm helping them along their final project. Right now we're doing a lot of printmaking for that, but we're getting excited and geared up for the summer programs now as well. We have 3-day programs for ages 6 to 12, and we also have a Friday morning program for the younger kids from ages 3 to 5 as well.
I'll mention that for people watching. It's called Artful Mornings, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursday mornings, 9 to noon. That's for ages 6 to 12. And then Toot for Tots, as in Institute. I'm sure that.
Yes.
That's for ages 3 to 5, must be accompanied by an adult, and that goes from 10 to 11:30. So I noticed in looking at your Artful Mornings, there's 9 sessions on these Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. It seems like you're integrating various aspects of your many collections in with these. How does
Absolutely.
That work?
That's one of the key ideas, to try to introduce them to the collections and how.
Not just the mummies, because we know we
not
know
just
kids.
the mummies. Yeah, and get the children to really have an understanding of what is in the collections and have a broader knowledge base, and be able to take inspiration in their own projects, their own artwork.
Well, I noticed that one of your sessions here, 3-day sessions, it looks like it's in step with the small and
Absolutely.
Small and Seductive.
Yeah, our first week of the summer is called Small and Special.
Okay.
Special is a little bit more
appropriate
for 6 to 12 than Seductive. But we'll be spending a good amount of time in the Small and Seductive galleries and taking a look at what they can create on a small scale as well. And there's a number of interesting works in the exhibit that have kind of a series of small pieces that are
like tell a little story
together. There are different types. There's one where there's one image in different colors and different representations, and there's an artist that has a series of portraits that are all in small scale and demonstrate different emotions. So we'll be making some series work as well, have some small scale materials, and then make a series of them with along the topic. Like if we're going after the portrait work, we'll take a look at expression and doing different expressions, but all very small works that can be displayed together. And
so each of the 9 sessions, you're going to show examples of whatever the topic is, and then the kids are going to do some artwork? Is that
Absolutely,
the idea?
Yeah. Each session has 3 hours each day, and we'll be spending some time in the galleries themselves, and we'll do a little bit of interaction with the kids on what their impression of the artwork is, as well as what we can share the background knowledge of, and then take it as inspiration when we create our own work. Like I have a work example here of a sgraffito project, a scratch art project that takes inspiration from some of the Dutch colonial tile work and Delftware. So one of the weeks we'll be looking at pattern in particular through the collections in the museum. So we'll take a look at some of the ceramic pattern, as well as some of the patterns in the contemporary art, like the book that Tammis was just talking about. The image with the bird has some beautiful lines and patterns in the background that can be used as inspiration as well.
Are any artists involved, or are you staff doing it, or do you have teachers or artists coming in?
I'm going to be leading the sessions, and I also have a college intern assistant who will be helping me as well.
So that's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings, 9 to noon, and you can find information. That'll be on the page here, albanyinstitute.org, Or if they call the Institute, it just says on here, ask for Barbara. So 463-4478. She's not here today. But.
She's our education coordinator.
And I notice of the 9 sessions that it does end up with Egypt mania. So the mummies still.
Absolutely, yeah. The end of the summer, the reinstallation of the mummies in the ancient Egypt exhibit will be occurring. So we'll be able to take a peek back into that as
Now,
inspiration.
for the younger kids, ages 3 to 5, Friday mornings only, 10 to 11:30, you have 8 sessions, and these. The themes only have one word here, but I think this is what 3 to 5 years old would like. We have clouds, moon, sun, rainbows, water, rocks, trees, and animals. So how does this work?
Well, the younger children will be coming with their parents, so we'll be interacting with both the parents and the child. They can do their projects and their artwork together. We'll be spending some time in the gallery still, and we'll have stories integrated with the program as well, related to the topics. We'll look for the subject of that day within the collections, and we'll also incorporate some things appropriate for the younger crowd, like movement activities and finger plays.
Okay.
And then we'll head back down to the studio to do our own art projects as well. And I have a work example for that as well here for the week, where we'll be taking a look at the sun and sunrises and sunsets. And this is done on wax paper, so if you hold it up to the natural light or a fluorescent light, it lets the light go through and shine the colors a little bit more. And we've got a lot of beautiful, vibrant sun and sunsets in the Hudson River School paintings, so that's a great week to take a particular look at those collections, that gallery as well.
That actually sounds like fun. Well, I read in articles in the newspapers and magazines, are arts programs in schools, are they being cut, or do you know, do you follow that? Is that?
I haven't had direct interaction with the business end of that, but I'm not shocked to hear that. I've heard buzz of that around the news and such.
Well, I
as
think
well.
as budgets are cut, I mean, sometimes people feel the arts and sports, are something that are not essential to the academics. But I think all of the research really supports the fact that for young children, or children of all ages, having an opportunity to explore the arts, to make their own works of art, is very beneficial in the long run.
Oh, yes. Arts.
So art activity, looking at art, making paintings, making sculptures, that type of thing really informs people in a lifelong experience.
Get away from all the gadgets we have now.
Well,
Actually, within the catchphrases in education, we've heard about STEM for a long while. They're starting to promote STEAM and have science, technology, engineering, arts, and math all in there as a focus together, and try to think of more cross-curricular ways to include the arts within those core subjects that have been so promoted of late as well.
And I think in the art world, I mean, artists utilize math, they utilize science, they for all of the things that they're doing, many of the things, not everything. For example, there's a work in The Small and Seductive by Dennis Bing, who was a person who pioneered the use of lucite in sculptural elements. So he was really one of the first artists to do this. So when you go into the gallery, this particular piece, it's a cube of primary colors, and it looks like it glows from the inside.
It's really luscious.
And so then it's the way he designed it and the materials that he used.
It's just his own materials. There's nothing plugged in or lights, or
there's nothing plugged in. Right, exactly. Good question to ask, though. You light it directly from above.
But the way he used materials makes it seem.
And again, a pioneer. And I think that that's one of the more interesting sculptures upstairs, because you really can't figure out how it was made. And in fact, it's an illusion, because it looks like the colors are emanating, but in fact the colors are on the outside. and then what's inside is reflective
Okay.
light. So it's a great piece to go and explore and try to figure out
Yes, well, that sounds like that.
what it's really made of, number one, and then how it glows.
It does sound like there's a lot of science and math involved there. Well, why don't we move on to, now we have your ongoing, which are always there. We'll just mention this because this, I don't know, the Hudson River School and 19th century landscape, that's been there for several years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think our mummies are the most popular exhibition at the Albany Institute, bar none. However, we are in the heart of the Hudson Valley, and our Hudson River School exhibition and collections are very well known in the sense that when you think about the Hudson River School, these are artists from the 19th century. They were, many of them were from New York, many of them were from Europe, and they would travel to New York City, and then they'd travel up the Hudson River. And almost all of them, at some point or another, would stop in Albany. They would participate in exhibitions, contemporary art exhibitions, if you could imagine, of Hudson River School. Those were the cutting-edge exhibitions of the day. They would buy paints. They would visit their friends. So the Albany Institute has a very nice collection of artwork, a lot of small sketches, a lot of large-scale pieces. There are photographs and letters and diaries, all associated with these artists. So it's a nice collection too.
And many of these artists are among America's most famous artists. I mean,
Yep, absolutely.
Thomas Cole, Frederick Church, James William Hart, Alfred Thompson. So these are pretty famous.
Yeah, absolutely. Asher B. Durand,
Now I have to
another
keep,
big artist.
Now I keep going back to your vast storehouse. Do you ever the Hudson River? Do you ever like? It sounds like you must have other Hudson River things. And do you ever switch them around or bring other?
Oh,
things?
absolutely.
Okay.
We're always switching everything around. Last year we had a major exhibition with about 135 Hudson River
Okay.
School artists, which that exhibition, called More Than the Eye Beholds, will be, by the end, probably by the fall, will be up on our website. It's our
Okay.
first exhibition on our website, so you'll be able to learn a lot more about the Hudson
All
River
right. So
School
even though it's ongoing,
And
it obviously changes.
Yes, absolutely. And even though it's in storage, you can actually see a lot of the works on our website.
On the website, okay.
And we have, in addition to the paintings, we have a lot of drawings. We probably have 600 drawings by Hudson River School artists, which again, you can see on our website. But the best thing is to come to the museum and see a selection of work on view. Also this summer, we're really sort of filled with a lot of art this summer. We have a photography
I was going to mention,
exhibition.
there's a
Good.
photography exhibit, opens June 28th, and it runs through September 7th, and it's called Summer Exposure. So why don't you...
Summer Exposure, yes. And for this, we've invited 5 different artists to show their photography work, contemporary, and they are very different in scope and technique, and I think it'll be very, very interesting for people to see. And these artists are going to be here at the museum on July 17th for a special opening and an artist talk whereby they'll talk about their work.
All right, so it starts June 28th, but people can meet the photographers.
Meet the photographers on
July
17th.
July 17th.
Right.
Okay.
And the photographers range from people like Marty Benjamin, who has taught photography at Union College for many years, and he's doing a series of his American landscapes. Also, he's traveled to Asia, so there are a lot of Asian works as well. And they're black and white and color. Another artist is Tom Fells, and Tom Fells is a scholar on photography, but he sort of discovered something that I think is very interesting, and it's called cyanotypes. And if you remember, and as a kid, and I think an interesting project, if you got these sheets of paper that were kind of a light color, and you'd put a leaf on them, and you put them out in the sun, and then the sun would cause a chemical reaction in the paper, and you take off the leaf, and you have a print of the leaf in white.
But sounds like something for the kids can do.
That's definitely a project that we'll be doing in the summer. Yeah,
Which will be a lot of fun. But what Tom Fells discovered is very large-scale cyanotype paper. So he was able to spent a lot of time with a tree in his backyard and doing these sun prints, if you will, of
Okay.
these trees, which I think is, from a technique, is a really interesting
and-
thing that many people are familiar with. You'll be able to do that.
Now, when you say big, how?
I think they're, 4 feet high, maybe 3 feet wide. I mean, they're very, very large,
So we can have
relatively
you have the
speaking.
small and seductive in one room. You can have these big.
Yes, and some of the other artists, for example, Dana Hoey, does a series of portraits, and those too will be very large scale.
Okay.
And she's in it, the title of her series is Love Thy Enemy, and she's very interested in aggression. So she's hired people who do, karate and those kinds of things, and she's photographed the moves of these different elements of aggression. So it'll be kind of interesting to see that. Another artist is her name is Carolyn Blackwood, and she spends time in her studio, which overlooks the Hudson River, and she photographs the river, the clouds, the water, the ice, and just the changing landscape of the river. So that's a sense of place that I think many of us are familiar with. And then the last artist is Bill Yeager, who teaches photography at SUNY. He's been a photographer and a writer in this area for a long time, and he too is really looking at elements of nature, elements of place. So I think it'll be interesting to see the works of these 5 different artists and compare them and see how each of them
That sounds
work.
very interesting. Now, I was reading this thing here. What does this mean? You use the term a series of. When something's a series, is that like a theme that goes through each? What does that mean?
It's series. It actually works really well in Small and Seductive. I mean, Sarah was talking about an artist by the name of Gail Johnson who did small portraits of herself. What she would do is had a whole box of clothing, if you will, and she would paint different views of herself. She would wear different clothes and different emotions. And there's a grid of, I think there's 16 of these. So it's all the same artist, but she has created new characters.
Oh, okay.
So it's a series. In Small and Seductive, Michael McKay has done a series of houses, suburban tract houses. They're all exactly the same, but the colors are different.
Okay.
And then there's another artist in Small and Seductive, Richard Garrison, who went around and photographed parking lots and then created color grids of the colors that he commonly found in a parking lot. So the gray of a metal light pole, a red of the exit, the brown of mulch.
Okay.
And they're also sort of very scientifically, mathematically,
Yeah.
kind of created to look regular, but it's a comment on our world. So the idea of taking the same imagery or colors and just doing a different series in different light,
Oh, okay.
different times of day.
So the
if you
Small
will.
and Seductive, I mentioned painting and sculptures. There's some photographs too. Then is that what you were?
No. Well, it was part of the way Richard Garrison, the way he would create his artwork.
Oh,
He would
okay.
take photographs and then he would create,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
paint them,
Okay.
colors. So that idea of series. Dana Hoey's are a series about Love Thy Enemy,
Okay.
much like Edward Maybridge. You see those multiple images that he would have done in the
Okay.
19th century. So series, artists work in series.
All right. So then finally, why don't we wrap up with here? We have 2 things left. First Fridays and free admission Thursday nights. Why don't we start with the free admission Thursday nights? What is?
Well, we decided that it would be nice to be open free for the museum, and often different holidays and such were open during the day. But the idea of if you're working or doing, if you're busy during the day, you could come to the museum on Thursday nights, and we'd always be free. And in fact, our attendance is growing, and we will continue that.
Now that has already started. Or is
It's
that-
already, yes,
Oh,
already started. So
okay.
people are coming to see the mummies. Sometimes we have programs.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes they're lectures, musical performances, things like that, but not always. It's just a night that we're open
Okay.
for free that you can count on every week that we're open
And what
for free.
time does the free admission start? Is it-
5 o'clock.
Okay, so 5, and what time's the library close? The library? I'm thinking- no,
Library.
the museum. I'm so used to.
We have a library too at the Albany Institute. That actually is open on Thursday
Oh, okay.
afternoons from 1 to 4:30 if you want to do research. But the Thursday night is 5 to 8.
All right, so free admissions on Thursday nights. And what's the first Friday you were telling me before we started? What's that all about?
First Friday is the idea that all over the city of Albany, the first Friday of every month, the galleries and museums are open for free. And very, very popular, and this has been replicated in other cities. I mean, I think in Troy,
I think they've been doing it in
first
Troy
Thursdays,
for,
and other places it's different nights. But this has been going on, I would say, for maybe 5, 10 years.
Oh, okay.
I mean, for a fairly long time, but it has a great following, and a lot of museums and galleries now will open their exhibits on those evenings.
Okay.
So it becomes a very festive way of going out on a Friday night, with your friends, and there are a lot of families because it's a lot of fun, and then going out having dinner. Last week I generally go out on First Friday, so
Okay.
it's
good.
and it's a good opportunity to see friends. There was an exhibition at Cap Rep that I went to, and also the Albany Center Galleries. They have a great exhibition on Tom Bredenbach. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's fun.
And then the museum closes on Friday at 8 o'clock. The same.
At 8 o'clock.
Okay. Well, it sounds like there's a lot going on down at the Albany Institute. You can see it. It's albanyinstitute.org. We have summer programs for kids. Thank you for coming, Sarah and Thomas. Thank you for coming. And anything else you want to wrap up with? We have a lot of. I'll tell people we got some flyers that they're leaving here for Small and Seductive. It's a big fold out if you want to get inspired to go to that. So
Yeah. Well, first I think going to our website is always a great idea, and if you want up to the weekly information on the Albany Institute, we also have an e-blast that you can sign up through our website, and then you
Okay.
can have e-blast reminders of all the
Okay.
programs. And sometimes we do programs that we haven't planned ahead for 4 months when our newsletter is out. So it's a great way of seeing what might be occurring, and I know that there are a lot of activities that come up.
And would that include Sarah's job there, for kids? Are you
Yeah,
included in the blast?
We definitely
sometime?
have our information like
Okay.
these here, all posted on our website. We also put a lot of information on our Facebook page as well if folks want to follow us on Facebook
Okay.
as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming, Sarah,
Thank you
Tammis.
for having us.
And we will see you next time on Getting to Know You.